Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan and I love motorcycles and movies. So I'm going to bring them together and give you the top 10 craziest motorcycle scenes in film. As badass as motorcycles are, they're kind of flimsy compared to everything else on the road. Simply put, you're at the bottom of the food chain. That is, unless you're Batman. I'm Batman. In a bat pod. It's basically a tank on two wheels with machine guns. On it, the Bat even takes out the mortal enemy of all motorcyclists, the semi-truck. But even Batman can't survive a crazy pedestrian who refuses to get out of the road. There's going to be a few scenes in this list video that will feature actors who do their own stunts because not only can they act, they're also pretty good at riding a motorcycle, which I find very impressive. Steve McQueen did just that in The Great Escape. Besides one pretty gnarly jump over a 6-foot fence, McQueen does a decent amount of off-roading on this beautiful Triumph 650, which is really impressive until you realize McQueen was a professional motorcycle racer before he became an actor. Anthony Hopkins plays Burt Munro, a crazy Kiwi who modified an Indian Scout, which looks like this, into this, and then sets a land speed record for motorcycles under 1,000 cc's with this 47-year-old motorcycle, which is just about the sketchiest thing I've ever seen. In the climactic scene where Burt goes for the record, there's so much tension being built up. From the extremely squirrely launch, to the high-speed wobbles, to the exhaust pipe burning the flesh off of his leg, to the eventual crash that we all knew was just going to happen. After all, there weren't even brakes on the machine. Although he didn't have to ride that death machine at high speeds, Anthony Hopkins, who was almost 70 at the time, did learn how to ride the Indian, which has one of the most uncomfortable riding positions I've ever seen. Mad Max Fury Road didn't have much of a story. It was just one long glorified chase, kind of like The Last Jedi, and there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the best chase scenes I've ever seen. There's just a huge amount of stunts being performed simultaneously throughout the entire movie. The creative team reportedly hired most of the best freestyle riders in Australia to do all the crazy stunts that can be seen throughout the movie. There are so many huge jumps, just one after another. Unlike most people, I like Jeremy Renner in Bourne much more than Matt Damon. One reason is I don't like Matt Damon. I'm very biased. The other reason is Jeremy Renner seems like a pretty nice guy, but also a complete badass, which is why he did most of his own motorcycle stunts in the film. And overall, there are some really cool moments in the sequence, like when Louis Ozawa ditches his scooter and steals a motorcycle, which is exactly how I feel when I have to ride a scooter. Then there's the scene where Jeremy Renner takes his CRF dirt bike and grinds down a rail. I'd love to see Matt Damon do that. Oh yeah, that's right, he can't. Pierce Brosnan is definitely not the most badass James Bond, but he was Bond when I was growing up, and he had a pretty awesome motorcycle scene in Tomorrow Never Dies. Handcuffed to Michelle Yeoh, the duo has to pull off one of the crazier stunts I've seen on a motorcycle. Michelle Yeoh has to work the clutch with her left hand, while Pierce works the brake and throttle on the right side, and they also have to figure out how to steer together. Not an easy feat, but it definitely makes for some great movie magic. Now, in the beginning of the scene, as Pierce hops onto the motorcycle, Michelle Yeoh tries to mount the bike at the same time. Pierce scoffs and throws the tiny Asian woman onto the back. But the thing is, Pierce didn't throw just any random Asian woman on the back of his motorcycle. He threw Michelle Yeoh, who did this in 1992's Supercop. Oh, that's no big deal. It was probably a Stuntwoman or CGI or special effects. No, it was completely real because it was a Jackie Chan movie made in Hong Kong, which basically meant no rules and regulations and very high death counts both on screen and behind the scenes. So yeah, maybe women sometimes are worse drivers than men, but that still doesn't mean you should be a dick like Pierce Brosnan and throw a woman onto the back of the motorcycle, because there's a chance that woman might be 20 times better at driving than you are, and also a badass. Hashtag feminism? There's something you have to understand about Asian motorcycles. Basically, their motorcycles are cars, and being a motorcycle rider isn't badass, it's just a part of life. So naturally, in order to impress Asian audiences, Jackie Chan had to bring things to the next level, which is exactly what he did in Operation Condor. It's basically the usual Jackie Chan athletic stunting and humor, but on motorcycles. What's there not to like? One should never buy a Ducati 996 and then go on a crowded highway, because it's almost impossible to stop yourself from doing this. which is probably not only highly illegal and dangerous, but will also make everything else in your life feel immensely boring and dull. On a side note, Carrie-Anne Moss, who plays Trinity, overcame her fear of motorcycles by going through some intensive training to drive at high speeds without a helmet, and another person on the back seat. That's definitely not an easy thing to do. Big props to her. Our last scene is going to feature Tom Cruise because he is insane and no one can top him. A lot of movies with motorcycle scenes feature some establishing shots with the actors on the bikes, and then maybe some terrible, awkwardly shot green screen scenes like in this scene in Tomb Raider 2. And it kind of makes the scene less interesting and ruins the immersion completely. But when you watch a Tom Cruise film, everything feels so real and intense, and that's because it is real. Tom Cruise, the motorcycle, it's real.
All of it.
Well guys, I hope you now understand what makes a great crazy motorcycle scene. Extreme speed, jumping, off-roading, and people riding those motorcycles. And better yet, the less rules, the better. Guys, let me know in the comment section below which scenes are your favorite. I know I missed a bunch, so let me hear about all those other movies that you think are great. And who knows, if this video does well enough, I'll cover a part 2 and maybe even part 3 of this topic, because I have so many awesome clips that I really want to show you guys. Well guys, thanks for joining us today. My name is Alan, reminding you that life is a movie and you are the protagonist.